There are forces of good and forces of evil at work in the world today. What are these forces? Who is responsible for the good? And who is responsible for the evil? Richard Shoff talks about current events which are rarely discussed by the mainstream media, events that affect us all. This program seeks to identify, to inform, and to equip the believer for what's ahead. Welcome to What in the World is Going On?
This is What in the World is Going On. I am your host, Richard Shoff. The program sponsored by Lincoln Log Homes. We're pro-Christian, pro-American, pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, and here only by the grace of God. Had most of my material lined up, and something was sent to me that I think is pretty important, not just because of the content, but the credibility of the article. You've all heard of Judicial Watch. They're one of the backbone items of the get the information, you subpoena it, you demand it, and they're very, very reputable. I have followed them for years, and they are behind this release. It appears that the walls are closing in on former President Obama. The truth of violations of law by the Obama White House, long buried, is being excavated by two private groups. Now, you haven't seen anything about this in the mainline media that I have found at all, and I don't know why. Well, Judicial Watch has obtained testimony from a top FBI official that Hillary homebrew server emails were found in the White House. That means that Barack Obama's illegally handling of classified information contained in those mails is closer to being exposed. This implicates him in the same felonies committed by Hillary Clinton that James Comey falsely claimed, quote, no reasonable prosecutor would pursue. Judicial Watch just announced that a senior FBI official admitted in writing and under oath that the agency found Clinton emails, the records in the Obama White House, specifically in the executive office of the president. The FBI also admitted nearly 49,000 Clinton server emails were reviewed as a result of a search warrant for her material on the laptop of Anthony Weiner. Now, E.W., or Bill Presstep, is an assistant director of the FBI Counterintelligence Division, made the disclosure to Judicial Watch as a part of a court-ordered discovery into the Clinton email issue. U.S. District Court Judge Royce Lamberth ordered Obama administration senior State Department officials, lawyers, and Clinton aides, as well as Presstep, to be deposed or answer written questions under oath. The court ruled that the Clinton email system was one of the greatest modern offenses to government transparency. Presstep was asked by Judicial Watch to identify representatives of Hillary Clinton, her former staff, and government agencies from which, quote, email repositories were obtained, end quote. Presstep responded with the following non-exhaustive list: Brian Paglino, Cheryl Mills, Heather Samuelson, Jacob Sullivan, Justin Cooper, United States Department of State, United States Secret Service, Williams & Connolly LLP, and listen to this, the Executive Office of the President. Presstep also testifies that 48,982 emails were reviewed as a result of a warrant for Clinton email account information from the laptop of Anthony Weiner, who had been married to top Clinton aide Uma Abedin. A complete copy of Presstep's interrogatory responses is available. Presstep is serving as Assistant Director of the FBI's Counterintelligence Division and helped oversee both the Clinton email and the 2016 presidential campaign investigations. Presstep testified in a separate lawsuit that Clinton was the subject of a grand jury investigation related to her BlackBerry email accounts. This astonishing confirmation, made under oath by the FBI, shows that the Obama FBI had to go to President Obama's White House office to find emails that Hillary Clinton tried to destroy or hide from the American people. This a quote from Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton. He's very credible, folks. No wonder Hillary Clinton has thus far skated. You see, Barack Obama is implicated in her email scheme. Press staff was ordered to answer the written questions by United States District Judge Roy C. Lamberth when he ruled in January that Judicial Watch discovery could begin in Hillary Clinton's email scandal. This action came in Judicial Watch July 2014 FOIA lawsuit. It made it possible and demanded copies of any updates and or talking points given to Ambassador Rice by the White House or any federal agency regarding or related to the September 11, 2000 attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi, Libya. Any and all records or communications regarding or relating to talking points or updates on the Benghazi attack given to Ambassador Rice by the White House or any federal agency. Judicial Watch's discovery seeks answers to whether Clinton intentionally attempted to evade the Freedom of Information Act by using a non-government email system, whether the State Department's effort to settle this case beginning in late 2014 amounted to bad faith, and whether the State Department adequately searched for records responsible to Judicial Watch FOIA request. Judicial Watch continues its invaluable service to our republic. They do this by pursuing Freedom of Information Act lawsuits where it really matters. A second scandal threat for the Obama administration is also slowly being excavated. Proof is piling up that White House operators exploited the NSA's surveillance of all electronic communications in the United States to monitor political opponents. This very long and detailed post by Sundance of Conservative Treehouse defies any possibility of concise summary. But by putting together information from the Mueller report with a ruling by FISA Court Judge Rosemary Collyer, Sundance teases out the clear implications. This requires time and focus to follow, but is rewarded, folks, by a deep understanding of how the Obama administration actually did spy on its opponents, not just on the Trump campaign. This is big, folks. And if the President Attorney General Barr will be aggressive on searching this out, we may finally get to the bottom of it. They're so doggone worried about our president, they won't give up even when they can't find anything by a special counsel. Hey, they got a dirty bathtub themselves. Let's put a spotlight on it. Now I'm going to get to the regularly scheduled material that I had in preparation for this program. You've all seen the Democrat candidates out there, all 20 of them. What a bunch of Looney Tunes. If that wouldn't scare, man, it scares me to death. You've got Bernie Sanders said he thinks everyone should have the right to vote, even the Boston Marathon bomber. That's right. At a CNN town hall meeting, Bernie Sanders argued democracy demands that right for every American. He said, and I'm quoting, "This is a democracy and we've got to expand that democracy, and I believe every single person has the right to vote," he said. Asked if that included sex offenders, the Boston Marathon bomber, terrorists, and murderers, Sanders replied, and I'm quoting, "Yes, even for terrible people." Well, I want to tell you, folks, that is scary. Earlier this month, Sanders called for more states to join Vermont and Maine in allowing felons behind bars to vote. This according to the Des Moines Register. I guess that would indicate that even if it's an illegal alien in there, he's got a right to vote in our national elections. Of course, we know the bottom line on why he wants that. What party do you think most felons would vote for? Who do you think they would vote? You think they would be conservatives? And then you've got that crazy Elizabeth Warren. She wants to get rid of the Electoral College. That means that Illinois, New York State, California, all the big population states, those nice liberal bastions, they would control our presidency. They'd control the election. Wouldn't that be nice? And of course, she wants, Elizabeth Warren wants insurance for all, even illegals. Then she wants to pay off all the student loans and have free college for everybody. Where do they think the money's going to come from? And we've got several candidates over there that don't want any border protection. They're for open borders. Allow more illegals in. Again, folks, who do you think they're going to vote for? And Kamala Harris, She's going to take care of the Second Amendment by executive order. One swash of the pen and she can come and take your guns. Let me ask you something. Is she going to take yours? I think you're going to get a problem there. But what a bunch of Looney Tunes you've got. And Sanders previously announced that he would support Medicare for all and to get rid of 181 million insurance policies that people have private coverage. Take the 181 million and put them on the government's back. Who do you think's going to pay for it? The new Medicaid for All bill introduced by Bernie Sanders would kick 181 million Americans off their existing private health care coverage. In a breakdown of the bill, it was reported that the legislation would create a new health insurance program, a national one, of course, to provide universal coverage to all U.S. residents, listen to this, regardless of their legal status. That includes illegals, folks. Can you phase that in over the next 4 years as they want? Under Section 107, the Daily Signal reported the bill would outlaw private health coverage, including employer-sponsored coverage that duplicates the coverage provided under the government program. It'd mean that about 181 million Americans would lose their existing private coverage. It would also abolish all other federal health programs, including Medicare, Medicaid, the Children's Health Insurance Program, TRICARE, the Federal Employees Health Benefit Program. These programs cover tens of millions in America, and it'd all be absorbed into one big policy under the federal government. The consequences of the bill will be slower care, fewer available doctors, and new taxation. What do you think the cost on that would be? I haven't seen any numbers on it, but it would scare me. What a bunch of Looney Tunes out there. I want to throw this in. Once in a while, we just have to stand back in awe of government. The food stamp program administered by the U.S. Department of Agriculture is proud to be distributing the greatest amount of free meals and food stamps ever. We're giving them to 46 million people. Meanwhile, the National Park Service, administered by the U.S. Department of the Interior, asks us, quote, please don't feed the animals, end quote. The stated reason for the policy is because, well, the animals will grow dependent on handouts and will not learn to take care of themselves. Thus ends today's lesson in irony. And a great quote of the day from Ben Stein, I'm going to quote him. Fathom the hypocrisy of a government that requires every citizen to prove they are insured. But not everyone must prove they are a citizen. Now add this. Many of those who refuse or are unable to prove they're citizens will receive free insurance paid for by those who are forced to buy insurance because they're citizens. Think about that one for a while, folks. Well, I just heard today that Joe Biden is officially running for president. And I want to point out to you that Joe Biden is not moderate. Joe Biden is far, far left. Now, I've got information here from the campaign manager for Christine O'Donnell. She's the Republican that ran against Joe Biden for Senate from Delaware back in 2008. The campaign manager is Jonathan Mosley, and he knows a whole lot of things about Joe Biden because he had to do it trying to beat him in the Senate race as campaign manager for Christine O'Donnell. Right now, Joe Biden is the front runner for the Democrat Party nomination for president. Out of a field of 19 Democrat candidates, well, Biden now makes it 20, Biden is polling between 26 and 33%. That's a commanding lead, folks. When voter preferences are divided 20 ways, it's an even more significant lead. Laughingly, Biden is talked about as the moderate Democrat candidate for president. To be sure, he has a far better persona than any of the other candidates. Biden is the far-left extremist you can take home to meet your traditional-minded grandparents. Biden will charm your neighborhood backyard party while flipping steaks on the grill. Biden is a national Democrat you'd most like to eat pizza with, regardless of your political beliefs. In other words, Biden is the best fake. Biden is a liberal from a time when anti-American, at war with reality, and even communist revolutionaries learned to hide who they really are. The only thing that's changed is that Democrats have decided that it is now better to be in the open and honest about their radical beliefs and agendas. Most Democrats have stopped pretending. Biden is still pretending. As I said, the author of this information, the one that sent it out, was the campaign manager for Christine O'Donnell when she ran against Biden for Senate from the state of Delaware. They've set up a website at that time called the Biden Quiz. How well do you really know Joe Biden? They did their research. They're highlighting Biden's liberal policies, beliefs, and agenda in what appeared when he tried to appear nationwide as a conservative. The campaign manager, as an attorney, was active in politics since Reagan Bush in '84. He spent more than 100 hours doing the research and double-checking every fact for accuracy and reliable citation to services. Just listen to some of these highlights that I'm just going to point out a few of them from the Biden quiz. This is when Biden was this is the opposition to Biden running for the U.S. Senate back in '09. On November 2007, Biden announced plans to impeach President Bush for any military action to halt Iran's development of nuclear bombs threatening U.S. cities. Biden was the third most liberal U.S. senator, according to the National Journal. That's based on his 2006 voting record. Biden's U.S. Senate votes were rated more liberal than Ted Kennedy's. The nonpartisan National Journal found that Biden voted for liberal positions in Congress 76.8% of the time. Biden received an 8% approval rating for his votes in the Senate by the U.S. Border Council. Only 8%. That was showing Biden's support for unsafe, uncontrolled borders in an age of terrorism. Biden earned an F, 11%, from the National Taxpayer Union for his Senate votes in 2006 as a big spender. Biden voted to provide social benefits to illegal aliens in May of 2006. Biden also supported a path to citizenship for illegal aliens. He received an F from the National Rifle Association. He received a rating of only 16% by the Christian Coalition for his anti-family record voting. He voted to allow gun manufacturers to be sued by trial lawyers. He was given a 32% approval rating from the United States Chamber of Commerce, indicating an anti-business voting record. Biden voted against parental notification before underage girls have abortions. Easy way to cover up statutory rape, isn't it? Biden voted no in July of 2006 on notifying parents of minors who were taken to another state for an abortion. Biden was the most pro-abortion senator in the U.S. Senate, not only for his beliefs, but because of his relentless manipulation of the confirmation process for judges. He would do this to frustrate the will of the American people and his distortion of the legal system to promote abortion. Biden received a 100% approval rating for his vote in the Senate from NARAL, Pro-Choice America, in four of his last 5 years. Biden led the left-wing political lynching of Robert Bork on the Senate Judiciary Committee. He received 0% rating from the National Right to Life Committee for his votes during the 107th Congress. Think of this. Just a few of the things they dug up on Biden. In 2007, he voted against a congressional resolution designated the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist organization. Biden opposes U.S. financing of abstinence programs to combat AIDS in Africa. In September of 2000, he voted to allow proliferation of military technology by China. That is, he voted against trade sanctions on China, even if China is caught selling high-grade military weapons around the world. That's the Joe Biden that many think is moderate. Doesn't sound very moderate to me. How about you folks? And how does Biden stand on today? Who's backing him? Well, minorities are backing him. Older adults, they boost him atop the Democrat field. Former Vice President Joe Biden leads all other candidates for the 2020 Democrat presidential nomination, drawing his strongest levels of support from minorities and older adults. An April 27 through 23 poll focused on the vote preference of 2,200 Democrats and independents. the two groups that probably select the Democrat nominee in most of the statewide contests ahead in the 2020 general election. According to the poll, 24% would vote for Biden over the other declared and potential candidates. The poll measures how potential voters feel right now. You know, sometimes they're going to change their mind as other people get better known, and maybe more people realize where Biden is really standing. Anyway, right now, 63% of all Americans say they've got a favorable impression of Biden, including 88% of the Democrats, 59% of the independents, and even 39% of Republicans. He receives the strongest level of support from older adults and minorities. 32% of adults who are 55 or older said they would vote for Biden over other candidates. 30% of the non-white adults, including about 4 in 10 African Americans, said they would back Biden for the nomination. The poll shows that at this early stage of the presidential campaign, Americans say they will vote for candidates who've been in the national spotlight for a long time. Their preference may change once they get to know the other candidates, but that's where it is now. More than 80% of the Democrats said they were at least somewhat familiar with Biden and with Bernie Sanders. Just thought you'd like to know. Now let's look at the other side. Let's look at the Democrat or the Republican side of this thing. We've got a president who I have never seen any man, president or anything else, attack like this man is attacked. He can't win at anything. He could find a cure for cancer, and he'd be criticized for that. After 2 years and multi-million dollars of money spent, the special counsel couldn't find anything to convict him on. But they're still talking impeachment. While they're talking impeachment of Trump, what I just pointed out to you earlier, the Democrats may have some dirty laundry there. Let's get it brought out. Well, anyway, President Donald Trump isn't taking impeachment talk by Democrats lightly. How do you impeach a Republican president for a crime that was committed by the Democrats, he asks. Trump tweeted that last Sunday, a week ago, after arriving back in Washington following a weekend at Mar-a-Lago. Earlier, the president criticized Special Counsel Mueller's probe, calling it the worst and most corrupt political witch hunt in the history of the United States. No collusion, when it was the other side that illegally created the diversionary and criminal event and even spied on my campaign. Disgraceful, Trump noted. Several Democrats, including that weird-looking Adam Schiff, over the weekend said impeachment could still be pursued. Quoting Schiff, impeachment is likely to be unsuccessful, but, he added, it may be that we undertake it anyway. U.S. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Nadler, whose panel would spearhead any impeachment proceedings, said Democrats would press ahead with investigations of Trump in Congress and see where the facts lead us. Obstruction of justice, if proven, would be impeachable, Nadler said. Isn't that wonderful? Hey, one thing I like, it looks like we're going to fight, or Trump's going to fight every one of the witnesses that the congressional groups, head by Democrats, are trying to subpoena in, those that have any relationship with the White House. Never-ending criticism. If you can't beat them, destroy them. Do everything you can to make them ineffective. And what are you going to replace it with? We just looked at the nut farm out there. Many people think that Biden is the most sane one of the group. Maybe he is. But did you hear what I just pointed out to you, how liberal he really is? Man. Well, a bit of good news. The Trump campaign reports a $30 million haul. That's right. Trump's re-election campaign raised more than $30 million in the first quarter of 2019, his campaign reported. That far outpaces the total raised by the individual Democrat candidates during that period. Trump's first quarter haul, leaving his 2020 election with $40.8 million in cash, showed Republican donors were willing to invest in him as he goes ahead for what will likely be a difficult bid for a second term. Senator Sanders and Kamala Harris have led the field of Democrat contenders, but now that Biden is in, he beats them both. But their fundraising is way ahead of Biden's. Their fundraising for 2019 is Sanders $18.2 million and Harris $12 million, respectively. The Republican National Committee brought in $45.8 million in the first quarter. Trump's re-election campaign is raising money alongside the RNC in what's called a Trump victory effort. It's about time they started sticking together. It's about time they started showing some results. And by the way, I just saw it today where it points out that if the election were held today, that Biden would beat Trump. Well, let's hope that we get some word out on what Biden really is. Just a few things about Trump that I haven't pointed out before that I like him for. He plans to pick Barrett for Ginsburg Supreme Court seat. Amy Coney Barrett. She's a great conservative. Anyway, President Donald Trump last year told confidence that he was planning to replace Supreme Court Ruth Bader Ginsburg for a seat with conservative circuit Amy Coney Barrett. I'm saving her for Ginsburg, Trump said as he was deliberating over filling Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy's seat. This according to 3 different sources who spoke with a news outlet. Ginsburg is 86 years old and she's just finished her third battle with cancer. She returned to the bench in early February after missing a bunch of days out due to surgery for lung cancer. It's questionable how long she'll remain strong enough to serve. But anyway, Trump is now saying that Amy Coney Barrett is the one that he's going to nominate to replace her when she can no longer serve. It was reported that Trump picked Brett Kavanaugh over Barrett last year over concerns that Amy's staunch opposition to abortion right would lose the votes of Republican Susan Collins of Maine and Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. One source told Axios that Barrett is the, quote, most known quantity right now amongst the women on the list. And she also has the inside track in the sense that she has the kind of battle-tested history for having gone through a confirmation already. She's one conservative judge, a fine lady. Another thing I like about Trump that we just picked up, his weekly jobless claims dropped to the lowest level since 1969. The number of Americans filing applications for unemployment benefits dropped to a 49.5-year low. The data pointed to sustained labor market strength that could temper expectations of a sharp downturn in economic growth. It's been said by people that are more knowledgeable than I am that the biggest, most important thing for the re-election of a president is our economics. Hard for the Democrats to find much fault with our economic position in America. Of course, they're not going to do anything to help it. We're not going to get any infrastructure bills passed or anything that could help. They're too busy trying to destroy the man and forget if they would destroy our republic while they're doing it. Another thing that Trump just did you see where he sanctioned nations for importing Iranian oil? The Trump administration is poised to tell 5 nations, including allies Japan, South Korea, and Turkey, they'll no longer be exempt from U.S. sanctions if they continue to import oil from Iran. This was announced a week ago. This Sunday. Good move, Mr. President. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo announced on last Monday that the administration will not renew sanction waivers for the 5 countries when they expire on May 2nd. This according to 3 U.S. officials. The other nations that are temporarily exempt are China and India. It wasn't immediately clear if any of the 5 would be given additional time to wind down their purchases or if they'd be subject to U.S. sanctions on May 3rd if they do not immediately halt imports of Iranian oil. The administration granted 8 oil sanction waivers when it reimposed sanctions on Iran after Trump pulled the U.S. out of the landmark 2015 nuclear deal, which was also a good move. They were granted in part to give these countries more time to find alternative energy sources, but also to prevent a shock to global oil markets from the sudden removal of the Iranian oil. U.S. officials now say they do not expect any significant reduction in the supply of oil, given production increases by other countries, including the United States itself and Saudi Arabia. Washington has a campaign of maximum economic pressure on Iran, and through sanction eventually aims to halt Iranian oil exports and thereby choke Iranian main source of revenue. Good job, Mr. President. Just one more thing he's done good. Don't have time to get into it, but it came out this past week about the pro-Christian move. that he directed at the Chief of Staff Mike Mulvaney to take at the National Catholic Prayer Breakfast. No other president in history has taken the stand for Christianity like our present president. In spite of all of these good things, what do the Democrats want to do? Destroy him, criticize him, put him down, harass him. And who are they going to replace him with? Well, maybe it'd be the sodomite mayor of South Bend, Indiana. Or maybe it would be Crazy Bernie, the communist senator who isn't even a Democrat, but an independent. Pray for our country, folks. Goodbye until next week.